The ballroom stood completely empty at 7:30 that evening, with 100 guests arriving to find no decorations, no music, no food, and no birthday girl. While my sister Amanda screamed into her phone trying to reach me, I was sitting on a beach in Santa Monica, watching the sunset and eating the slice of chocolate cake I had bought for myself. After 28 years of forgotten birthdays and a decade of planning hers, I had finally given my family exactly what they had always given me. Absolutely nothing. My name is Doris, and this story starts 10 years ago when I turned 18. I remember that day like it happened yesterday because it was the first time I truly understood what being invisible in your own family felt like. I had been looking forward to my 18th birthday for months. In my mind, this was going to be the celebration that marked my transition into adulthood. I imagined my parents, David and Carol, taking me out to dinner at that fancy steakhouse downtown. Maybe they would give me the car keys I had been hoping for, or at least acknowledge that their oldest daughter was now legally an adult. Instead, I came home from my part-time job at the local bookstore to find our suburban Phoenix house completely dark. Not a single light was on. No cars in the driveway, no balloons on the front door, nothing. I used my key to let myself in, flipping on the lights to reveal our normal, everyday living room. The same beige couch where my dad watched sports every evening. The same glass coffee table where my mom stacked her real estate magazines. Everything looked exactly as it had when I left for work that morning. I stood there for a moment, holding my breath, waiting for someone to jump out and yell surprise. But the silence stretched on, broken only by the hum of our refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic on the main road. I checked the kitchen counter where my family usually left notes for each other. Nothing. I looked in the refrigerator, thinking maybe there would be a birthday cake waiting. Instead, I found leftover pizza from 2 nights ago and a carton of milk that was probably expired. That's when the reality hit me. They had forgotten. Completely. I walked to the nearest grocery store, bought myself a single chocolate cupcake with pink frosting, and ate it alone at our kitchen table while I waited for someone to come home. The frosting was too sweet, and the cake was dry, but I finished every crumb because it was the only birthday celebration I was going to get. My dad arrived home first, around 9 o'clock, still wearing his navy blue suit and carrying his leather briefcase. He walked into the kitchen, grabbed a beer from the refrigerator, and said, "Hey kiddo, how was work today? Not happy birthday. Not sorry we missed your special day. Just a casual question about my minimum wage job shelving romance novels." "It was fine," I replied, watching his face for any sign of recognition, any hint that he might suddenly remember what day it was. He nodded, popped open his beer, and headed toward the living room to watch the evening news. "Your mom's showing a house to some clients from California. She'll be home late. There's leftover lasagna in the freezer if you're hungry." My mom, Carol, came home around 10:30, her blonde hair slightly messed from the desert wind and her makeup faded from a long day of showing properties to potential buyers. She kicked off her high heels by the front door and immediately started talking about the difficult clients she had been dealing with. "They want a 5-bedroom house with a 3-car garage for under $300,000, she said, shaking her head as she poured herself a glass of white wine. "I told them this is Phoenix, not some small town in Kansas. The market here is competitive." I sat at the kitchen table, my empty cupcake wrapper still in front of me, waiting for her to notice. Waiting for some acknowledgement. She never even looked at me directly, just kissed the top of my head absent-mindedly and said, "Make sure you lock the front door before you go to bed, honey." My sister Amanda bounced through the front door around 11, her long brown hair in a high ponytail and her cheerleading uniform still perfectly pressed despite a long day of practice. At 16, she had the kind of effortless beauty that made people stop and stare. Green eyes, perfect teeth, the confidence that came from being popular and well-liked. "Practice was amazing," she announced to the room, even though only I was listening. "Coach says we have a real shot at winning regionals this year. Sarah Jenkins thinks she's better than everyone else, but her back handspring is sloppy. Mine is way cleaner." She grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl and headed toward the stairs. I'm exhausted. See you tomorrow. And that was it. My 18th birthday passed without a single person in my family acknowledging it had happened. 2 weeks later, everything changed. Amanda's 16th birthday was approaching, and suddenly our house transformed into party planning headquarters. My parents hired a professional event coordinator named Mrs. Henderson, who arrived with binders full of color-coordinated ideas and samples of invitation paper. "We want this to be perfect," my mother said, sitting at our kitchen table with Mrs. Henderson while they discussed themes and budgets. Amanda only turned 16 once, and she's worked so hard this year with cheerleading and keeping her grades up. The budget they settled on was $3,000. $3,000 for one night of celebration for my sister, while my own milestone birthday had been marked with a 99-cent cupcake and nobody's attention. I offered to help with the decorations and coordination, partly because I wanted to feel useful, and partly because I was genuinely excited to see my sister happy. I spent hours cutting out paper flowers, stringing lights, and organizing the guest list. I coordinated with the caterer about food allergies and helped Amanda pick out the perfect dress. The night of her party, our backyard looked like something out of a magazine. Fairy lights hung from every tree. Round tables with crisp white linens were scattered across the lawn. A professional DJ played music that had 50 teenagers dancing until midnight. The catered food was delicious. The custom cake was 3 layers tall, and everyone kept saying what an amazing party it was. I stood on the back porch, watching my sister laugh with her friends, and felt proud of what I had helped create. My parents kept telling people what a good big sister I was, how helpful I had been with all the planning. "Doris has such an eye for detail," my mom told Mrs. Henderson. "She's a natural at this kind of thing." I convinced myself that my forgotten birthday had been a fluke, an oversight. Next year would be different. But when Mrs. Henderson was packing up her supplies at the end of the night, she handed me a business card and said something that stuck with me for years afterward. "You have real talent for this kind of work," she told me quietly. "If you ever want to get into event planning professionally, you should call me. I could use someone with your instincts." 3 weeks later, I was helping my mom organize some paperwork when I found a folder in her desk labeled Amanda's Birthday Ideas. Inside were magazine clippings of party themes, newspaper articles about teenage celebration trends, and handwritten notes about vendors and decoration ideas. Some of the clippings went back over a year. My parents had been planning Amanda's perfect 16th birthday for months. When I mentioned my forgotten 18th birthday to my mom a few weeks later, she looked at me with genuine surprise. "Oh, honey, you're an adult now," she said, as if this explained everything. "We figured you'd want to celebrate with your college friends instead of having some family dinner. Amanda's still a child. These teenage years are so important for building confidence and memories." That was the moment I realized that my family didn't see my birthday as less important than Amanda's. They didn't see it at all. Over the next 5 years, from age 19 to 23, the pattern didn't just continue. It crystallized into an unspoken family system where I became the unofficial coordinator of every celebration, while my own special days vanished into the background like morning mist. During my sophomore year of college, I started keeping a detailed journal of every family event. Not because I was planning to use it against anyone, but because I needed to make sense of what was happening. I needed proof that I wasn't imagining the disparity. Amanda's 17th birthday. Theme was Hollywood glamour. Budget was $4,200. I coordinated with 3 different vendors, spent 12 hours decorating, and managed a guest list of 60 people. The party lasted until 2 in the morning, and Amanda received gifts worth more than most people make in a month. My 19th birthday. I came home from college expecting maybe a small family dinner. Instead, I found a note on the refrigerator saying my parents had taken Amanda shopping for homecoming dresses and would be back late. There was $20 on the kitchen counter with a sticky note that read, "Order yourself some pizza. Happy birthday, sweetheart." I kept the receipt from that pizza for 3 years. $11.47. That was the total financial investment my family made in celebrating my 19th year of life. Amanda's 18th birthday was even more elaborate. My parents hired a professional photographer, rented a party tent for our backyard, and flew in my aunt from Colorado specifically for the celebration. The cake alone cost $300, custom made to look like a cheerleader's megaphone with Amanda's name written in glittery frosting. I had become so skilled at party coordination by this point that other families started asking me to help with their celebrations. Mrs. Peterson from down the street hired me to organize her daughter's graduation party. The Johnsons asked me to coordinate their anniversary celebration. Word spread through our neighborhood that David and Carol's oldest daughter had a real gift for making events special. But every compliment felt like a knife twist. People would say things like, "Your parents are so lucky to have a daughter who can create such beautiful celebrations," while my own parents failed to acknowledge that I even had birthdays worth celebrating. My 20th birthday fell on a Tuesday. I dropped hints for weeks, mentioning that I would be home from college and maybe we could do something special. My mom nodded absently each time, the way she nodded when I told her about my grades or my part-time job in the campus library. The day came and went. No acknowledgement. No cake. No card. No phone call. That evening, I sat in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by textbooks and laundry, and did the math. Since turning 18, my family had invested approximately $15,000 in Amanda's birthdays. The total amount spent acknowledging mine was $31.47. I started buying my own birthday presents that year. I would wrap them carefully, put them under my bed, and open them on my birthday morning. I told myself I was being practical, getting things I actually wanted instead of random gifts chosen by people who didn't really know me. But the truth was, I was trying to fill a hole that kept getting bigger every year. Amanda's 19th birthday happened during her freshman year of college. She was attending Arizona State University on a partial cheerleading scholarship, and she came home specifically for her celebration. My parents planned an elegant dinner party for 35 people, including Amanda's high school friends, her new college roommates, and extended family members. I coordinated everything, as usual. I contacted the caterer, organized the guest list, designed custom invitations, and spent 2 days decorating our house. The theme was Desert Rose, with pink and gold decorations that transformed our normally plain dining room into something that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel. The night of the party, I wore a simple black dress and stayed busy in the kitchen, making sure everything ran smoothly. I watched through the doorway as Amanda held court in the living room, telling stories about college life and showing off the expensive jewelry our parents had given her as a birthday gift. "Doris works so hard on these parties. I heard my dad tell his brother, she's got a real talent for it. We're lucky she enjoys doing this stuff." Enjoys. As if my coordination efforts were a hobby instead of unpaid labor born from love and a desperate desire to feel useful in my own family. After all the guests left and the cleanup was finished, my mom hugged me and said, "Thank you for making Amanda's night so special. She'll remember this forever." I went to bed that night wondering what I would have to do to create a memory my family would want to preserve of me. My 21st birthday should have been a milestone. The legal drinking age in America. A celebration that most families mark with some kind of special recognition. I dropped hints for months. I mentioned that some of my college friends were planning to take me out, but that I would love to celebrate with family too. I suggested restaurants. I mentioned that I had never had a real 21st birthday celebration. When the day arrived, I waited until evening for someone to suggest dinner or acknowledge the significance. Instead, my parents went to Amanda's college volleyball game 2 hours away. They left a card on my dresser with $50 inside and a note saying they would celebrate with me when things calmed down. I spent my 21st birthday at a chain restaurant near campus with my roommate Jessica, drinking one legal beer and pretending I didn't care that my family had chosen to watch my sister play a recreational sport instead of celebrating a milestone that only happens once in a lifetime. That was the night I started seriously considering Mrs. Henderson's business card, which I had kept in my wallet for 3 years. Amanda's 20th birthday was the most elaborate yet. She had decided she wanted a rooftop garden party theme, which meant my parents rented the top floor of a downtown Phoenix hotel and hired a professional florist to transform the space into an urban oasis. The budget reached $6,000. I coordinated with 8 different vendors, managed transportation for 45 guests, and spent 3 days on setup and decoration. The party was featured on Amanda's social media accounts and received hundreds of likes from her college friends. I found a receipt from that party in my mom's purse a week later. She had saved it in a folder labeled Tax Deductions, Entertainment. Apparently, my parents were claiming Amanda's birthday parties as business expenses related to my dad's real estate networking. That was when I discovered something that changed everything. I was helping my mom organize her home office when I found a larger folder hidden behind her tax documents. It was labeled Amanda's Birthday Ideas, and it was thick with years of accumulated planning materials. Magazine clippings dating back to Amanda's 13th birthday. Vendor business cards with notes about pricing and availability. Color swatches and fabric samples. Pages of handwritten notes about party themes and decoration concepts. There were subfolders organized by year, each containing detailed plans and budgets for my sister's celebrations. I could see the evolution of my parents' investment in making Amanda's birthdays special, the care and thought that went into every decision. But what hit me like a physical blow was the notepaper clipped to the inside cover of the folder. In my mother's handwriting, it read, "Thank goodness Doris loves organizing. Saves us so much work and money on party planners. She's better than the professionals, and she does it for free because she cares about family." They weren't just taking my coordination efforts for granted. They were actively relying on my unpaid labor as a cost-saving measure while investing thousands in celebrations that excluded me entirely. I put everything back exactly as I had found it, but that note burned itself into my memory. I wasn't seen as a generous daughter helping her family create beautiful memories. I was seen as a free alternative to hiring professional help. That night, I called Mrs. Henderson. "I've been waiting for this call," she said when I introduced myself. "Are you ready to turn that talent into a career?" The irony wasn't lost on me that I was building a successful business creating magical celebrations for strangers, while my own family continued to treat my birthday like an inconvenient afterthought. But memorable moments. The event planning company I started at age 24 gave me something I had never experienced before: recognition for my skills and appreciation for my efforts. My first professional client was Mrs. Rodriguez, whose daughter was getting married at a vineyard outside Phoenix. She hired me after seeing photos of Amanda's 20th birthday party, which my sister had posted extensively on social media without ever mentioning who had planned and coordinated everything. "I've never seen such attention to detail," Mrs. Rodriguez told me during our initial consultation. "The way you used lighting to create ambiance, the flow of the guest experience, the seamless coordination of multiple vendors. You have a gift, a gift." Someone was calling my abilities a gift instead of expecting me to use them for free. The Rodriguez wedding was a success that led to 3 more bookings within a month. Word spread through Phoenix social circles about this young event planner who could transform ordinary spaces into extraordinary experiences without the premium pricing of established firms. I specialized in creating emotional resonance. While other planners focused on trendy decorations or expensive vendors, I concentrated on understanding what each celebration meant to the people involved. I interviewed clients about their stories, their relationships, their dreams for the event. Then I designed experiences that honored those connections. My business grew rapidly. Within 18 months, I had planned 12 weddings, 6 anniversary parties, 4 graduation celebrations, and countless corporate events. Local wedding magazines featured my work. The Phoenix Business Journal included me in their 30 Under 30 entrepreneurs list. I was earning more money than either of my parents and building a reputation as one of the most creative event planners in the Southwest. But every success felt hollow because the people who should have been proudest of my achievements were the same people who had never valued my talents enough to invest them in celebrating my own life. Amanda's 21st birthday fell during my busiest season, and she announced that she wanted the most elaborate celebration yet. She had been inspired by a party shed seen on social media thrown by a celebrity's daughter, complete with live entertainment, custom cocktails, and a guest list that had expanded to 60 people. "I want a rooftop party at the Phoenician Resort," she told our parents over dinner one evening. "With a live band, not just a DJ. And I want those custom cocktails with dry ice that make smoke. And a photo booth with props. And maybe we could hire some of those dancers who perform with ribbons." My dad didn't even blink at the estimated cost of $8,000. "It's a milestone birthday," he said. 21 only happens once. I wanted to point out that 22, 23, 24, and 25 also only happen once, and that my milestone birthdays had been marked with gas station flowers and restaurant gift cards. But I didn't say anything because I had learned that expressing hurt feelings was seen as selfishness in my family. Instead, I threw myself into planning the most spectacular celebration Amanda had ever had. I negotiated with vendors, designed custom lighting schemes, coordinated transportation for guests coming from 3 different cities, and managed every detail with the precision that had made my business successful. The night of Amanda's party, I stood on the hotel rooftop, watching 60 people dance to a live jazz trio, while bartenders served cocktails that bubbled and smoked like chemistry experiments. Amanda looked radiant in a designer dress that cost more than some people's monthly rent. My parents moved through the crowd, accepting compliments on what a wonderful celebration they had organized for their daughter. Nobody mentioned that I had coordinated everything. Nobody acknowledged the 40 hours I had invested in making the night perfect. When people asked who had planned such a spectacular event, my parents just smiled and said they'd worked with a very talented coordinator. I was invisible even when I was standing right there. 2 weeks later, my own 25th birthday arrived on a Tuesday in March. I had dropped hints for weeks, mentioning that it would be nice to celebrate with family, suggesting restaurants, even offering to plan something simple myself. Instead, I worked until 9 that evening, coordinating a corporate event for a pharmaceutical company. By the time I got home, my family had already eaten dinner and gone their separate ways. My dad was in his home office working on real estate contracts. My mom was reading in bed. Amanda was at study group with her college friends. There was a card on my dresser with a gift certificate to Target inside. $25 for my 25th birthday. The mathematical precision of their minimal effort would have been funny if it hadn't been so painful. That evening, I drove to the corporate event I had been managing and watched as 200 employees celebrated their company's anniversary. I had transformed the hotel ballroom into an elegant space that honored the firm's 30-year history. There were photo displays showcasing the company's growth, testimonials from longtime employees, and a presentation acknowledging every person who had contributed to their success. During the presentation, the CEO spoke about the importance of recognizing the people who make achievements possible. "Success isn't just about the work that gets noticed," he said. "It's about the countless hours of dedication from people who care enough to make things better, even when nobody's watching." I stood in the back of the ballroom, coordinating the evening's timeline, and cried quietly into my headset microphone. Here were total strangers expressing more appreciation for their employees' contributions than my own family had ever shown for mine. I started therapy the next week. Dr. Patricia Morrison was a family counselor who specialized in helping people navigate complicated relationships with relatives. Her office was in a quiet building near downtown Phoenix, with comfortable chairs and warm lighting that made difficult conversations feel safer. "Tell me about your relationship with your family," she said during our first session. I had intended to keep the conversation general, maybe talk about feeling underappreciated at work or struggling with professional boundaries. But once I started describing the pattern of forgotten birthdays and expected party planning, I couldn't stop. The words came tumbling out like water from a broken dam. "They're not bad people. I kept saying, as if I needed to defend my family even while acknowledging how they had hurt me. They love me. They're just busy, and Amanda has always been the kind of person who needs more attention. Doctor. Morrison listened without judgment, taking notes occasionally but mostly just letting me tell my story. When I finished, she asked a question that stopped me cold. Doris, if a friend told you this same story about their family, what would you say to them? I sat in silence for several minutes, thinking about how I would react if Jessica or Maria or any of my other friends described being treated the way I had been treated. I would say their family was taking advantage of them, I admitted finally. I would say they deserved better. And why would you deserve less than what you would want for a friend? That question changed everything. The breakthrough came during Amanda's 21st birthday party, in a moment that crystallized everything I had been feeling but couldn't articulate. I was standing near the bar, coordinating with the catering staff about the timing for dinner service, when one of the guests approached me. She was an older woman, elegantly dressed, who had been watching me work throughout the evening. "Excuse me," she said, handing me a $50 bill. "I wanted to tip you for the incredible job you're doing tonight. This is one of the most beautifully coordinated events I've ever attended." I stared at the money, confused. "Oh, I'm not. I mean, thank you, but I don't need a tip. I'm Amanda's sister." The woman's expression shifted from appreciation to surprise. "Your family? Oh my goodness, I thought you were the hired coordinator. The family is so lucky to have someone with your professional skills willing to donate their services." She paused, looking around at the elaborate party setup. "They must be paying you well for this level of coordination. I hire event planners for my own business, and this kind of work usually costs $15,000 to $20,000. When I explained that I wasn't being paid anything, that I was just helping out because we were family, her expression changed to something I couldn't quite read. "You planned all of this? For free? Because you're related." She looked around again, taking in the live band, the custom lighting, the elaborate decorations, the coordinated service staff. "Honey, you're not helping out. You're running a professional operation that would make established event planners jealous." She handed me her business card. "I own 3 restaurants in Phoenix. When you decide to start charging your family what you're worth, call me. I could use someone with your skills." That night, after the last guest had left and the cleanup was finished, I sat in my car in the hotel parking lot and Googled the cost of hiring a professional event planner for a party like the one I had just coordinated. The average price for that level of service in Phoenix was $16,000. My family had saved $16,000 by using my free labor while investing $8,000 in a celebration that excluded me entirely. I was contributing $24,000 in value to my sister's birthday, while receiving $25 in acknowledgement of my own. Amanda's engagement changed everything, but not in the way I expected. When she announced that her boyfriend Bradley had proposed during a ski trip to Colorado, my parents' excitement reached levels I had never seen before. This wasn't just another birthday party they were planning. This was the wedding of their dreams. Bradley came from old Phoenix money, the kind of family that had been wealthy before Arizona was even a state. His father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across the Southwest, and his mother served on the boards of 3 different charities. Amanda's engagement to him represented everything my parents had hoped for their daughter: social status, financial security, and entry into Phoenix's most exclusive circles. "We need to start planning immediately," my mother announced the day after the engagement became official. "The Weatherby family expects things to be done properly, and we only have 18 months to put together a wedding worthy of their standards." The guest list started at 200 people. The venue discussion centered around the most prestigious locations in Arizona: the Four Seasons Resort, Scottsdale, the Arizona Biltmore, the Phoenician Resort. My parents talked casually about budgets that started at $50,000 and climbed from there. And naturally, everyone assumed I would coordinate everything. "You're so good at this," Amanda said when the family gathered to discuss wedding plans. "And you know exactly what I like. Plus, it'll save us so much money since we won't have to hire a wedding planner." I did quick math in my head. Professional wedding planners in Phoenix charged between 15 and 20% of the total wedding budget for full-service coordination. If Amanda's wedding cost $50,000, they were asking me to donate $10,000 worth of professional services. If it cost more, which seemed likely given the Weatherby family expectations, my unpaid labor would be worth even more. Actually, I said carefully, wedding coordination is my full-time job now. I usually charge a percentage of the total budget for my services. The silence that followed was deafening. My dad looked at me like I had suggested we charge admission to Christmas dinner. Doris, we're family. You wouldn't charge your own sister for your help. Besides, my mother added, you love doing this kind of work. It's not like we're asking you to do something you hate. Amanda's expression was the most telling. She looked genuinely shocked that I might expect compensation for coordinating her wedding. I thought you'd want to help make my day perfect, she said. This is the most important day of my life. I backed down, as I always did. Of course it'll help. I just meant that professional wedding coordination is a lot of work. We know, my mother said, patting my hand in the condescending way she used when she thought I was being silly. That's why we're so grateful to have you. Amanda's 22nd birthday fell right in the middle of wedding planning season, and she decided she wanted a future bride-themed celebration. The party would serve as both a birthday celebration and an engagement party, combining two major events into one elaborate evening. I spent weeks coordinating vendors for what became the most expensive and complex event I had ever planned for my family. The theme required custom decorations that referenced both Amanda's birthday and her upcoming wedding. I designed centerpieces that incorporated roses and peonies, her two favorite flowers. I coordinated with a specialty baker to create a custom cake that looked like a stack of gift boxes topped with a miniature engagement ring. The guest list included not only Amanda's friends and our extended family, but also members of the Weatherby family and their social circle. These were people who attended galas and charity auctions, people who were accustomed to professionally planned events with no detail overlooked. I worked 60 hours that week, coordinating with 12 different vendors and managing a timeline that required military precision. The decorations alone took 8 hours to set up, and I personally oversaw every placement to ensure nothing looked out of place. The party was a spectacular success. Amanda looked radiant. Bradley's family was impressed, and the whole evening felt like a preview of the wedding celebrations to come. My parents moved through the crowd, accepting compliments on what a beautiful event they had organized. But I wasn't just invisible anymore. I was actively erased from the narrative. When Mrs. Weatherby, Bradley's mother, complimented my parents on the elegant party planning, my mother smiled and said, "We worked with a wonderful coordinator who really understood Amanda's vision." She didn't mention that the coordinator was her daughter. She didn't acknowledge that I had donated professional services worth $8,000. She spoke about me in the third person while I was standing 10 feet away managing the catering timeline. 2 weeks later, my 27th birthday arrived, with all the fanfare of a Tuesday grocery run. I had spent the previous month dropping hints about wanting to celebrate with my family. I mentioned restaurants I'd been wanting to try. I suggested that it might be nice to have a small family dinner, just the four of us, to celebrate before I got too busy with spring wedding season. Every hint was met with vague acknowledgement. "That sounds nice, honey," my mother would say before immediately changing the subject to wedding planning. The morning of my birthday, I woke up with the kind of hope that persists despite years of evidence that it's misplaced. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe my parents would surprise me with the kind of thoughtful celebration they put into every other family milestone. I got dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that would be appropriate for dinner at a nice restaurant. I did my makeup and hair with extra care, preparing for photos that might document a special evening with my family. When I came downstairs, my mother was on the phone with the florist, discussing centerpiece options for Amanda's wedding reception. My father was reading real estate contracts at the kitchen table. Amanda was still in bed, sleeping off a late night with friends. Nobody said, "Happy birthday." I made myself coffee and toast, listening to my mother discuss the difference between roses and peonies for 20 minutes without any acknowledgement of what day it was. Finally, around noon, I couldn't stand it anymore. "So," I said during a break in wedding planning conversation, "I was thinking it might be nice to go to dinner tonight. For my birthday." My mother looked up from her wedding planning notebook with a distracted expression. "Oh, that's right. Happy birthday, sweetheart. 27. Right. Yes. 27. Well, we should definitely celebrate," she said in the tone people use when they're agreeing to something they don't really want to do. "Where did you want to go?" I suggested 3 different restaurants. Each suggestion was met with complications. The first was too expensive. The second didn't take reservations. The third was too far from the house, and my dad had an early morning meeting the next day. "Maybe we could just order pizza and celebrate at home," my mother suggested. With everything going on with the wedding planning, it's been such a busy week. So I spent my 27th birthday eating delivery pizza around our kitchen table while my family continued discussing Amanda's wedding plans. The conversation centered around whether the reception should have a live band or a DJ, whether the cocktail hour needed additional appetizers, and whether the ceremony should start at 4 or 5 o'clock. My birthday was acknowledged with a grocery store cake that my mother picked up on her way home from showing houses, and a card with a $50 gift certificate to Target. "Well, do something special for your 30th, my mother promised as she cleared away the paper plates and plastic forks. 30 is a real milestone. 3 years away. She was asking me to wait 3 more years for a meaningful birthday celebration. That night, I sat in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by wedding planning materials I was supposed to review for Amanda's ceremony, and made a decision that would change everything. I was going to give my family exactly what they had always given me, nothing. But first, I needed to document exactly how much nothing I had been receiving. I spent the next week going through my old journals, calendars, and financial records. I calculated every hour I had invested in family events, every dollar my professional services would have cost, every birthday that had passed unacknowledged. The numbers were staggering. Over 10 years, I had coordinated 17 major celebrations for Amanda. The professional value of those services totaled $153,000. I had also helped plan countless family gatherings, holiday celebrations, and special events that would have cost another $50,000 in professional coordination fees. In that same time period, my family had invested a total of $437 in acknowledging my birthdays, $200,000 in professional services donated to my family, $437 received in return. But the money wasn't really the point. The point was that I had spent 10 years trying to earn love and recognition through perfect party planning, while my family had spent 10 years proving that no amount of effort on my part would ever make them value me the way they valued Amanda. I was 27 years old, successful in my career, respected by my professional peers, and still begging my family to notice that I existed. It was time to stop begging. The final straw came 3 days before Amanda's 23rd birthday, when my father called me at work to remind me about a family obligation I wasn't even aware I had committed to. "Don't forget you need to clean the house Thursday evening," he said without preamble. "Your mother's book club is meeting here Friday afternoon, and she wants everything spotless for the ladies." "Thursday is my birthday," I said quietly. There was a pause. Not the pause of someone remembering something important they had forgotten. The pause of someone trying to figure out why the information they'd just heard was supposed to matter. "Oh, right," he said finally. "Well, you're turning 28. Not a big milestone. Amanda's 23rd is much more important right now. We need to focus on making sure her party is perfect." 28 years old, and my father had just explained to me that my birthday didn't matter because it wasn't a big enough number to deserve attention. That was the moment I stopped trying to earn my family's love and started planning to teach them what they had been missing. The revelation that my own father considered my 28th birthday insignificant compared to Amanda's 23rd was the catalyst that transformed 10 years of accumulated hurt into cold, calculated resolve. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger was too hot, too chaotic for what I needed to accomplish. This required precision. I called my best friend Maria that evening and asked her to meet me for coffee. Maria Rodriguez owned a successful catering business and had become both a professional colleague and one of the few people who understood what my family dynamics were really like. "You look different," she said when she saw me at our usual coffee shop near downtown Phoenix. Calmer, somehow. But also, I don't know, determined. "I need to tell you something," I said, settling into the corner booth where we always sat, "and I need you to listen without trying to talk me out of what I'm planning." I told her about my father's phone call, about the casual dismissal of my birthday in favor of house cleaning for my mother's book club. I explained the pattern that had been building for 10 years, the financial calculations I had done, the professional value I had donated while receiving nearly nothing in return. "Doris," Maria said when I finished, "what you're describing isn't just favoritism, it's emotional abuse." Hearing those words from someone else, spoken out loud in a public place, made them real in a way they had never been when I thought them privately. "They're not bad people," I said automatically. The defense I had been offering for years. "Good people can do bad things," Maria replied firmly. "And taking someone's love for granted, exploiting their generosity, treating their feelings as unimportant, those are bad things. It doesn't matter if they don't mean to hurt you. They are hurting you." She leaned forward across the table. "What are you planning to do?" I explained my idea in broad strokes. Amanda's 23rd birthday was going to be her most elaborate celebration yet, with 100 guests, live entertainment, and a venue that cost more per night than most people's monthly salary. She expected me to coordinate everything, as usual. My family expected me to donate my professional services, as usual. But this time, I was going to give them exactly what they had always given me on my birthday. Nothing. "I'm going to plan the perfect party," I told Maria. "I'm going to handle every detail, coordinate with every vendor, create the most spectacular event Amanda has ever had. And then, on the day of her party, I'm going to disappear." Maria stared at me for a long moment. "Disappear where?" "I don't know yet. Maybe the beach. Maybe Las Vegas. Maybe just somewhere in Phoenix where I can celebrate my own birthday the way I've always wanted to." "Doris, that's nuclear. You understand that, right? This will blow up your relationship with your family." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe it will finally make them understand what they've been taking for granted." Maria was quiet for several minutes, stirring her latte and thinking. "Finally," she said, "if you're going to do this, you need to do it right. You can't just disappear and hope they learn a lesson. You need to make sure they understand exactly why it's happening." That's when we started planning the most elaborate disappearing act in Phoenix party planning history. Over the next 2 weeks, I threw myself into organizing Amanda's 23rd birthday celebration with the kind of enthusiasm my family had come to expect. I booked the grand ballroom at the Phoenician Resort, the most prestigious hotel in Phoenix. I coordinated with a 12-piece jazz band, hired professional photographers, arranged for a 5-course plated dinner, and designed custom decorations that would transform the ballroom into something that looked like it belonged in a palace. Amanda's guest list had grown to 100 people, including college friends, family members, Bradley's wealthy relatives, and social media influencers she wanted to impress. The per-person cost was approaching $200, making this the most expensive celebration my family had ever planned. Every detail was meticulously coordinated. I created timeline spreadsheets, vendor contact lists, and contingency plans for every possible complication. The level of organization was so thorough that the hotel event staff complimented me on being the most prepared coordinator they had ever worked with. But while I was planning Amanda's perfect party, I was also planning my perfect escape. I booked a beach house in Santa Monica for the same weekend, using money I had saved from my event planning business. I invited 6 of my closest friends, people who had been celebrating my birthdays with genuine enthusiasm for years, while my family treated them as minor inconveniences. I researched restaurants, planned activities, and created the kind of birthday celebration I had dreamed about for 10 years. A weekend where I would be the center of attention, where people would sing happy birthday with real joy, where my special day would be treated as actually special. The logistics required military precision. Amanda's party was scheduled for Saturday evening. My birthday celebration would begin Friday afternoon and continue through Sunday. I would need to disappear completely, with no possibility of being reached by my family, right around the time guests started arriving at the Phoenician. "Are you sure about this?" Maria asked during one of our planning sessions. "Once you do this, you can't take it back. Your family will know it was intentional." "Good," I said. "I want them to know it was intentional. I'm tired of being invisible in my own life." The hardest part was maintaining normal family interactions while planning their devastation. I sat through dinner conversations about Amanda's party timeline, nodded along with discussions of seating arrangements, and smiled when my parents talked about how proud they were to be hosting such an elegant event. "We're so lucky Doris loves doing this," my mother said during one of these conversations. "Professional party planners charge so much money, and they never care about the family the way Doris does." I almost laughed. They had convinced themselves that I coordinated their events out of pure love, when the reality was that I had been desperately trying to earn the kind of love they gave Amanda automatically. 3 days before Amanda's party, I started documenting everything. I photographed every vendor contract, every timeline spreadsheet, every decoration plan. I wanted a complete record of exactly how much work went into creating the celebrations my family took for granted. I also wrote a letter explaining my decision, though I didn't plan to leave it where they would find it immediately. The letter outlined 10 years of forgotten birthdays, quantified the professional value of my donated services, and explained that disappearing from Amanda's party was my way of giving them the same level of consideration they had always given my special days. "I'm not doing this to hurt anyone," I wrote. "I'm doing this to help you understand what it feels like to be treated as an afterthought in your own family. For 10 years, you've taken my love for granted while investing thousands of dollars and countless hours in making Amanda feel special. Tonight, you'll get to experience what I've experienced every year. Showing up with expectations and finding nothing prepared, nothing planned, nothing special waiting for you." The night before Amanda's party, I had dinner with my family for what I knew might be the last time for a while. The conversation centered around final preparations and timeline confirmations. Everyone was excited about the next evening's celebration. "It's going to be the party of the century," Amanda said, practically glowing with anticipation. "Everyone's going to be so impressed. Thank you for making it perfect, Doris." For a moment, I almost wavered. The gratitude in her voice was real, and she looked genuinely happy. But then I remembered every birthday of mine that had passed unnoticed, every celebration that had been planned around my availability without any consideration of my feelings, every time I had been treated as staff instead of family. "You're welcome," I said. "I hope it's everything you've dreamed of." That wasn't exactly a lie. I did hope the evening would be memorable for her, just not in the way she was expecting. The morning of Amanda's party, I woke up early and loaded my car with everything I would need for my beach house weekend. I had told my family I would spend the day at the hotel handling final preparations, which was technically true. I did need to make some final arrangements. I just wasn't planning to stick around to see them implemented. My last task was the most difficult one. I needed to cancel everything without leaving any evidence that could be traced back to me until after the disaster had already unfolded. I called each vendor from a phone number I had set up specifically for this purpose. I told them that the family had decided to cancel the event due to a sudden emergency, but that they would be paid in full for their preparation work. Most vendors were understanding, though disappointed to lose such a large event on short notice. The hotel was trickier. I explained that there had been a family crisis, and the party would need to be canceled. The event coordinator was sympathetic but explained that cancellation fees would still apply since we were canceling the day of the event. "That's fine," I said. "Please send the final invoice to the address on file." By noon, every vendor had been notified. The flowers wouldn't be delivered. The band wouldn't show up. The catering wouldn't arrive. The decorations wouldn't be installed. The photographers wouldn't appear. Amanda's perfect party had been systematically dismantled, and nobody would discover this until guests started arriving at an empty ballroom. At 12:30, I turned off my phone and drove toward California. The drive to Santa Monica took 6 hours, which gave me plenty of time to second-guess my decision about 100 times. But every time I considered turning around, I remembered my father's casual dismissal of my 28th birthday, or my mother's assumption that I would clean the house instead of celebrating, or the years of watching my family invest thousands of dollars in making Amanda feel special while treating my birthdays like minor inconveniences. I had spent 10 years trying to earn their love through perfect party planning. Today, I was finally going to find out what happened when that labor wasn't available. My beach house rental was everything I had hoped for. A small but elegant cottage just 2 blocks from the Pacific Ocean, with floor-to-ceiling windows that let in gorgeous natural light and a deck that overlooked the water. I had invited 6 friends from various parts of my life: Maria from my professional network, Jessica from college, 2 women from my photography class, and a couple I had met through my event planning business who had become genuine friends. Everyone had been excited when I explained that I wanted to celebrate my 28th birthday weekend at the beach. These were people who remembered my birthday without being reminded, who asked what I wanted to do instead of assuming I would coordinate everything myself, who treated my special day like it was actually special. I checked into the beach house at 6 o'clock Pacific time, which meant it was 7 o'clock in Arizona. Amanda's party was scheduled to begin at 7:30. Right about now, my sister would be getting ready in her hotel room at the Phoenician, expecting me to arrive with last-minute coordination details. My parents would be dressed in their formal evening wear, prepared to spend the evening accepting compliments on what a beautiful event they had organized for their daughter. The hotel staff would be setting up chairs in the ballroom, expecting vendors to arrive at any moment with decorations and catering supplies. And 100 guests would be preparing to leave their homes, anticipating an elegant evening of celebration. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the deck overlooking the ocean, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. For the first time in years, I wasn't responsible for anyone else's happiness. I wasn't managing timelines or coordinating vendors or making sure everything ran smoothly. I was just sitting quietly, enjoying the peace of a beautiful evening. My friends started arriving around 7:30. Jessica brought champagne and a custom cake she had ordered from a bakery in Los Angeles. Maria brought her famous enchiladas and a mariachi guitarist she knew from her catering business. The others brought flowers, gift bags, and the kind of genuine excitement about my birthday that I had never experienced from my own family. "This is gorgeous," Jessica said, looking out at the ocean view from the deck. "I can't believe you've never done a beach birthday before." "I've been too busy planning other people's parties," I said, which was true in more ways than she realized. We were just starting to open the champagne when my phone rang. I had turned it back on to take photos, and immediately saw 43 missed calls from various members of my family. The caller ID showed Amanda's name. I let it ring. "Are you going to answer that?" Maria asked, knowing more about my family situation than the others. "Not tonight," I said. "Tonight is about celebrating with people who actually want to celebrate with me." The phone rang again. Then, again. Text messages were coming in so rapidly that my phone buzzed continuously for several minutes. I turned the phone to silent mode and put it face down on the kitchen counter. "Should we be worried?" one of my friends asked. "It seems urgent." "It's not an emergency," I explained. "It's just my family realizing what it's like when someone doesn't show up for an important event." The evening that followed was the best birthday celebration I had ever experienced. We ate incredible food, drank excellent wine, listened to live guitar music, and talked about everything except party planning and family obligations. My friends were genuinely interested in my life, my business goals, my thoughts about moving forward. They asked thoughtful questions and listened to my answers. When it came time to open gifts, each present was clearly chosen by someone who knew me well and cared about my interests. A set of professional photography lenses from Jessica, who knew I was expanding into event photography. A beautiful leather-bound planner from Maria, customized with my business logo. A weekend spa package from the others, who understood that I rarely took time to relax. "You deserve to be celebrated," one of my friends said when I started crying at the thoughtfulness of their gifts. "You spend so much energy making other people's events special. It's time someone made your day special." Around 10 o'clock that evening, curiosity finally got the better of me. I checked my phone and found over 100 text messages and missed calls from my family. The messages started angry and demanding, then shifted to confused and desperate, then finally landed on pleading and apologetic. "Amanda, 7 p.m. Where are you? The party starts in 30 minutes. My mother, 7:15. Doris, please call immediately. We're at the hotel and nothing is set up. My father, 7:30. This is not the time for whatever point you're trying to make. Call me back now. Amanda, 8 p.m. People are arriving and there's nothing here. No decorations, no food, no band. What happened to everything? My mother, 8:30. Honey, please, we need you. I don't understand what went wrong. Amanda, 9 p.m. I'm humiliated. All my friends are here and it looks like we forgot to plan our own party. Bradley's mother is asking questions I can't answer. My father, 9:30. Doris, whatever we did wrong, we can fix it. Please come help us figure this out. The progression of messages told the whole story. At 7:30, they had expected me to magically appear and make everything perfect, as usual. By 8, they were realizing that something was seriously wrong. By 9, they were facing the social humiliation of having promised their friends an elegant celebration and delivered an empty ballroom instead. And finally, by 9:30, they were acknowledging that this might be connected to something they had done wrong. It had taken them exactly 2 hours to reach the conclusion that their treatment of me might be problematic. 2 hours of public embarrassment had accomplished what 10 years of patient conversation had never achieved. I checked social media and found that several of Amanda's friends had already posted about the mysterious party disaster. Photos of confused guests standing in an empty ballroom, videos of Amanda crying in her expensive dress, comments expressing sympathy and asking what had happened. The hashtag number Amanda birthday fail was already trending locally. Around midnight, I finally listened to one of the voicemails. It was from my mother, and her voice was shaking. Doris, honey, I don't know where you are or what happened tonight, but please call us back. Amanda is devastated, and we're all so confused. The hotel manager said someone called this morning and canceled everything, but we never authorized any cancellations. I know we must have done something to upset you, and I'm sorry. We love you, and we need to talk about whatever went wrong. Please call me back. For the first time in that message, my mother sounded like she was talking to her daughter instead of her event coordinator. I put the phone back down and returned to my friends, who were sharing stories and laughing on the deck under the stars. Everything okay? Jessica asked. Everything's perfect, I said. And for the first time in 10 years, I meant it. The beach house had a guest room where I could see the ocean from the bed. I fell asleep that night listening to the waves crash against the shore, knowing that for once in my adult life, I had spent my birthday being celebrated instead of celebrating someone else. Meanwhile, back in Phoenix, my family was experiencing what I had experienced every year for the past decade. The disappointment of showing up with expectations and finding nothing special waiting for them. The only difference was that their disappointment lasted one evening. Mine had lasted 28 years. I spent Saturday morning walking on the beach, drinking coffee, and finally reading all the messages my family had sent throughout the night. The tone had evolved from anger to panic to genuine remorse, and by dawn, they were sending messages that sounded more desperate than demanding. Amanda, 2 a.m. Doris, I know you're mad at us, and maybe you have good reasons. I'm sorry for whatever we did. Please just tell us you're safe and come home so we can talk about this. My father, 3 a.m. I keep thinking about what I said about your birthday not being important. I was wrong. I was focused on Amanda's party and I forgot that you have feelings too. I'm sorry. My mother, 4 a.m. I found your journal from college, the one where you wrote about all our birthdays. I never realized we were hurting you this badly. We love you, sweetheart. Please come home. That last message stopped me cold. My mother had found my old journal, the one where I had documented every forgotten birthday and every elaborate celebration for Amanda. She had read my private thoughts about feeling invisible in my own family. Part of me felt violated that she had gone through my personal belongings. But another part of me was relieved that she finally understood what had been happening all these years. I spent the rest of Saturday celebrating with my friends. We went shopping in Santa Monica, had lunch at a beachfront restaurant, and spent the afternoon taking photos and enjoying the California sunshine. Every moment felt like a gift, because I was experiencing what it was like to be the center of attention on my birthday, instead of working behind the scenes to make someone else the star. That evening, Maria and I sat on the deck watching the sunset and talking about what would happen when I returned to Phoenix. They'll want to fix things, she said. But fixing things means changing the fundamental dynamic of your family. Are you ready for that conversation? I think so, I said. For the first time in my life, I feel like I have leverage. They can't take my work for granted anymore because they've seen what happens when it's not available. What do you want from them? Maria asked. Like, specifically, if they asked you what it would take to repair your relationship, what would you tell them? I had been thinking about that question for 24 hours. I want them to acknowledge that they've been treating me unfairly. I want them to understand that my birthday matters as much as Amanda's. I want to be compensated for the professional work I've donated to family events. And I want Amanda to learn how to plan her own celebrations, instead of assuming I'll always be available to do it for free. Those are reasonable requests, Maria said. The question is whether they're capable of making those changes. Sunday morning, I finally called my family back. My mother answered on the first ring. Doris? Oh, thank goodness. Where are you? Are you safe? I'm safe, I said. I'm in California, celebrating my birthday with friends who actually remember that I have birthdays. There was a long pause. When my mother spoke again, her voice was quieter. We remember your birthdays, honey. We didn't realize they were important to you. Mom, every birthday is important to the person having it. You remember Amanda's birthday 6 months in advance. You plan elaborate celebrations and spend thousands of dollars making her feel special. I get restaurant gift cards and grocery store cake when I get anything at all. I know, she said, and I could hear that she was crying. I read your journal. I never realized how much we were hurting you. Your father and I have been talking all night, and we want to make this right. How? I asked. How do you make right 10 years of treating me like I'm less important than Amanda? I don't know, she admitted. But we want to try. Will you come home so we can talk about it? I told her I would return Monday evening and that we could have a family meeting to discuss how things would change going forward. But I also made it clear that the conversation would happen on my terms, with my conditions, or it wouldn't happen at all. When I got back to Phoenix Monday evening, I found my family waiting in the living room like defendants at a trial. Amanda's eyes were red from crying, and she looked smaller somehow, less confident than usual. My parents looked exhausted and older than I remembered them being just 4 days earlier. Before we talk, I said, setting my beach bag down by the front door, I need you to understand something. I didn't disappear from Amanda's party to hurt anyone. I disappeared to give you the exact same experience you've been giving me for 10 years. I wanted you to know what it feels like to expect something special and find nothing waiting for you. Amanda spoke first. Doris, I'm so sorry. I never thought about how we were treating you. I just assumed you liked planning parties because you're so good at it. Being good at something doesn't mean I should have to do it for free, I said. I'm a professional event planner. My services have value. But you've all been treating my work like it's a hobby I do because I love you. My father cleared his throat. We calculated what we owe you, he said, pulling out a piece of paper. For 10 years of professional party planning services. The total is $153,000. I stared at the number, even though it matched my own calculations. Seeing it written down in my father's handwriting made it real in a way it had never been before. "We can't pay you all of that at once," he continued, "but we want to start making it right. We're going to pay you $15,000 immediately, and then we'll work out a payment plan for the rest." I wasn't sure what to say. I had never expected them to actually compensate me financially. "And," my mother added, "we want to plan a real birthday celebration for you. Whatever you want, whatever budget you think is appropriate. We want to show you that your birthday matters as much as anyone else's." Amanda spoke up again. "I want to plan it myself. I want to learn how to coordinate events instead of always depending on you to do it for me. Will you teach me?" That conversation led to the most honest discussion my family had ever had about favoritism, expectations, and the difference between love and taking advantage of someone's generosity. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't comfortable, but it was necessary. Over the next few months, my family followed through on their commitments. They paid me the money they owed, both as back payment for previous work and as advance payment for future events where my professional services were requested rather than assumed. My 29th birthday, which happened 6 months later, was everything I had always wanted a family celebration to be. Amanda spent weeks planning it, coordinating with vendors, designing decorations, and managing every detail. She called me regularly with questions and updates, treating the planning process like the professional undertaking it actually was. The party itself was elegant but personal, with thoughtful details that showed my family had finally started paying attention to my preferences instead of assuming I would handle everything myself. The guest list included my friends as well as family members. The decorations reflected my actual favorite colors instead of what looked good in photos. The timeline was designed around my comfort rather than social media opportunities. Most importantly, I was celebrated as the guest of honor instead of working as the coordinator. I sat at a table with my friends, opened thoughtful gifts, and gave a speech about gratitude and forgiveness, without once checking on catering timelines or vendor coordination. "This is what every birthday should feel like," I told my family during my speech. "Not just the big milestone years, but every year. Every person deserves to feel special on their birthday, to feel valued and appreciated by the people who love them." Amanda cried when I thanked her for planning such a beautiful celebration. "I had no idea how much work this was," she said. "I don't know how you made it look so easy for all those years." "It wasn't easy," I said, "but it was worth it because I love our family. I just needed our family to love me back the way I was loving all of you." My event planning business grew tremendously after my story became public. The local media picked up the tale of the woman who disappeared from her sister's birthday party to teach her family about appreciation, and suddenly I was being interviewed on radio shows and featured in magazine articles about family dynamics and self-advocacy. More importantly, I started receiving clients who specifically sought me out because they wanted an event planner who understood the emotional significance of celebrations. Families who had been struggling with similar dynamics. People who wanted their events to be meaningful rather than just Instagram-worthy. I also started speaking at workshops about setting boundaries in family relationships and recognizing emotional labor. My story resonated with people who had been giving more than they received in their own families, who had been treated as staff rather than loved ones. The most rewarding part wasn't the professional recognition or the financial compensation, though both were meaningful. The most rewarding part was watching my family transform their understanding of love, appreciation, and reciprocity. Amanda became genuinely skilled at event planning and started coordinating celebrations for her friends and sorority sisters. She developed an appreciation for the work involved and never again assumed that elaborate parties happened through magic rather than effort. My parents made a conscious effort to remember and celebrate my accomplishments, my preferences, and my special days with the same attention they had always given Amanda. More importantly, they started treating me as their daughter rather than their event coordinator. The relationship wasn't perfect, and it took time to rebuild trust after so many years of feeling undervalued. But it was honest in a way it had never been before. 2 years later, when Amanda got married, she hired me as her professional wedding coordinator and paid my full fee without question. The wedding was beautiful, but more importantly, it was collaborative. I handled the professional coordination while Amanda managed the personal touches and family dynamics. During the reception, Amanda gave a speech thanking me not just for planning her wedding, but for teaching our entire family what it meant to value each other's contributions. My sister didn't just coordinate this wedding, she told the 150 guests. She taught me how to appreciate the people who make beautiful things possible. She taught our family the difference between taking advantage of someone's love and actually loving them back. That night, after all the guests had gone home and the cleanup was finished, I sat with my family at our kitchen table, sharing leftover wedding cake and talking about the day. You know what the best part was, my mother said. Watching you enjoy the reception instead of working through it. For the first time, you looked like you were having fun at a party you planned. Because, for the first time, I was treated like family instead of staff. I said. My father raised his glass of leftover champagne. To Doris, he said, for teaching us the difference between being loved and being appreciated. To second chances, I added, and to families that learn from their mistakes. We clinked glasses in our quiet kitchen, surrounded by the gentle chaos that follows every good celebration. But this time, the chaos felt different because I wasn't responsible for cleaning it up alone. Sometimes the people closest to us can't see our value until we stop giving it away for free. Teaching people how to treat you isn't selfish. It's necessary for healthy relationships. The moment I disappeared from that empty ballroom wasn't just about missing cake and decorations. It was about claiming my worth and demanding the respect I had earned through a decade of invisible love. The best gift I ever gave my family wasn't a perfect party. It was the opportunity to learn who they could become when they stopped taking me for granted. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family, like your efforts were expected but never appreciated? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about finding your voice and claiming your worth. Share this with someone who needs to remember that their contributions matter too. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it inspires you to value yourself the way you deserve to be valued.